So we're going to go ahead and start tonight. Thank you for coming, everybody. We've got a good crowd. It's nice to see everybody here, returning and coming to our meetings. So we're going to get started.
All right, guys. Thank you again for coming to our third general meeting for Pre-Med AMSA. I'm Dr. Prasad. If any of you guys don't know me, I'm the president this year. We've started a really strong year. Today, I believe, is 2 days shy of a month since we've had our first meeting for Pre-Med AMSA this year. And so far, I can just give you guys, for all the new members and a lot of new people faces that we have today, just want to tell you guys what we've been doing in the last month. Within the last month, we've opened, our research director, Hillary Bankston, has opened up a research program with the Florida Hospital Celebration Health, and 10 to 14 AMSA members have already started to get involved with research. We've also had our Director of Operations, Chris Hanley, start a program where Pre-Med AMSA members can volunteer as mock patients with the Florida Hospital East Orlando. We also had 5 UCF College of Medicine students attend our second general meeting. We've also had an Associate Dean of Osteopathic Medicine come and speak to Pre-Med AMSA members about their medical school. We've also offered a free practice MCAT to all AMSA members for free. We've also had our historian, Ryan Anaj, record all of our meetings so far and all of our newsletters and put that all on our website. We've also established an AMSA study night, and we also have participated in a weekly foster kids tutoring that we go to every Thursday. And every Thursday since we've started, we've had, I want to say, at least 10 students there tutoring the foster kids. So just a round of applause for you guys and for our officers for being such amazing. So thank you guys. We definitely are committed to making all of our students the best pre-med applicant students, the best med school students. We're really excited to start this meeting off. We have a great speaker waiting for you. Before we get started with our meeting, there's a new club that has been established at our school. The club is named Global Medical Training, and the president of that club is just going to go ahead and speak to you for a little bit and let you know a little bit more about his club. Please welcome Angad.
So we're starting a new organization called Medical Training, and so let me get started introducing it because it's brand new at UCF, but it's been around for a long time at the university. So let's start with what is GMT? GMT is an international humanitarian organization, and it's actually a national foundation here in the States. And this guy, his name is Dr. Will, and he was in family practice for about 30 years. And then he retired and was like, you know what, I want to do completely nonprofit work. And so he created Global Medical Training in Chicago. And as far as what we do is we go to Latin American countries, mainly like Nicaragua, Panama, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, and we go to like rural areas and we provide medical services. And so what would you guys be doing if you come on a trip with us? Well, as you can see, it's very hands-on, and you guys basically, it's for pre-meds and pre-eds, so here we have someone checking some breathing or something, and have dental clinic set up, it's called PhD. This is our pharmacy we set up, and all these medications are completely donated, or donations, come in, or expired medications, whatever, but we set it up. And it's very safe. I don't think that, you're going to be there and just like, hey guys, be doctors, undergraduate, just do your thing. No, it's not like that. It's not. So they hire doctors, they hire translators, they hire transportation, everything's included in the price of the trip. It's very organized, it's very safe. And this is actually one of the doctors, and she was overlooking everyone over there. And there were 2-3 more doctors with her, so it's very, very safe. So like I said, there's chapters all over the country, UCLA, UF, UNC. This is US, a picture from UF when they first started. I served in the E-board at UF, and we kicked off really well. And so this GMT organization actually is what pushed me to go into medicine. So hence I'm here, and I want to share it with you guys, and hopefully you get a lot out of it. So yeah, excited. So yeah, like I said, great opportunity, especially for pre-med. This is pre-med AMSA, so please come. A lot of kids will go on this trip, and then they'll have their med school interviews, and they talk about it, and they discuss this and what they did, and they've done really well. Pretty much everyone in this picture got med school. If you can go back to the first slide. So that's basically GMT, but I want to leave you with this first slide. Whip out your cell phones. Picture of the slide because it has our Facebook group on it, and that's our main way of keeping in touch with our members. We have a great following right now, so please join our group and tell all your friends, all your pre-med friends or pre-med friends, pre-health friends, and we will tell them to join our group. If you have any questions, email us, and also use Facebook us. And you can also visit the national website, GUT Online, for a lot more information, a lot more pictures, and brochures, whatever you want. Just visit that website.
What's the average cost for?
The average cost is between, for pre-med, depending on the year you go, it's $1,200, and for pre-med it can be $1,300, but it can be a bit cheaper. It doesn't include your flight, but it does include your lodging, it includes your breakfast and dinner, it includes, breakfast and lunch, sorry. It includes your travel, then don't forget that they have staff hired, interpreters, doctors, dentists that, they need to hire to help you guys out. So it includes all of that stuff. But we're gonna have a general meeting, it's gonna be a huge meeting, and I'm gonna be able to reserve our own room on campus. So if you join the group, you can find out when that first meeting will be, and I'll discuss exactly, a lot more the pricing, how it goes, and we'll have some time to ask questions. And yes.
Are you guys a registered student organization on campus?
Yes. The reason why I say in a few weeks is because we have our approval form gone through. So we're waiting to get the email back saying, all right, guys, you're good to go. Just reserve your room on campus, whatever you want. So we're in that last phase of becoming ours. So that they've already approved us. We've already met with everyone we need to meet with. It literally just wait like 1 or 2 weeks before they let us start using the campus facilities. So just hold on tight and keep checking that Facebook group, and you can see repost or something of my first meeting. Anybody else have any questions before? No? All right. Make sure you have this, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Ogad. We're going to go ahead and get started with our meeting. As you know, we're going to go ahead and just get started with our officer updates. Coffee with the Com, it's actually one of our big events for this semester. That's Coffee with the UCF College of Medicine. I did mention this at the last meeting, that this event is limited to the first 100 AMSA members that email our secretary at secretary@premedamsa.com. We've already received, I believe it's 76 emails, so 76 slots have already been filled. If you really want to attend, it's a great event. You'll get to see the UCF Anatomy Lab, you'll get to hear from the UCF Assistant Deans, and just an all-around great event. You get to interact with UCF College of Medicine students, and we provide transportation as well as flight refreshments when we get there. Coffee with the Com, donuts, coffee, enjoy. Again, email Brad, and you'll get some. Email Brad, and he'll put you down on our list for that. Also, another event that's on your event sheet that I just briefly want to mention is TPR's Anatomy of the MCAT. We've been talking so much about this MCAT, but we haven't really gotten to detail what is in this test. In your event sheet, you guys can see that's an event that's going on, I believe, on a Saturday. It's hosted by our amazing sponsor, the Princeton Review. They're going to be telling you guys all about the MCAT, the breakdown of it, the amount of questions, what you really need to start focusing on when you're in these Bio 1, Bio 2, Orgo, these type of classes. What you really need to focus on when you're taking these classes now, to apply that to the MCAT. So that's just 2 events that we have going on now, and our Vice President's going to go ahead and let you know about a few other events we have going on.
Alright, hey guys, I'm Heather. Jake's going to talk to us about study nights. He's our academic director. Just really quick.
Hey guys, I'm Jake. I'm one of your academic directors, and George and Ben are out there. You guys want to stand up, just so that people become familiar with you. We're going to be holding study nights every Monday night from 6 to 8 down in the Kaplan office, which is right next to the ticket center where you can buy tickets or anything. It's going to be a place where you can just come in and study. I know we have online study, and there's the library, but sometimes you just need a different environment, or maybe your roommate's bugging you or something. So come out, there's going to be a quiet room, and then there's also going to be a group study area. So if you have any questions, you can come up to us, talk to us after the meeting, or email us, and we'll be there next Monday. So hopefully we'll see some of you guys there. Thanks.
Some other opportunities. Tomorrow is the Start Learning Fair, so you can come around and see some just what opportunities you have on campus to succeed academically. And it's also going to be decade-based, so you're going to see some people dressed up kind of funny, so definitely come and check it out. And then there's a lot of stuff going on with research, and if you are still interested, a lot of those things, some of those opportunities have closed up already. But if you're still interested, we have a research binder in the cubicle. It'll get updated over the next couple months, but it has a lot of contacts for research directors on campus and programs that are available to UCF students. So definitely check it out. Now,
Hey guys, I'm Davina. In case you guys don't know, I'm the chief of staff for this year. The only suggestion that I have, only comment I have is on the back of the newsletter, there's a suggestion section that I've been saying I would collect and I really haven't had a chance to. So Matt Family, he's going to stand up. He's going to be walking around at the end of the aisles if you guys just want to pass them down whenever you guys are done with them, and he'll walk by and collect them.
Hey everyone, first thing I want to say is that I apologize for not having the updated list for t-shirts. I emailed Ashley this morning, they haven't gone back to me. So what I plan on doing is, as soon as I get that updated form, to be here same time next Tuesday before our director's meeting. And I'll be outside with all the t-shirts and welcome bags. You guys can go ahead and just come up and take them, and your director can stay. If not, you're welcome to watch my director meeting if you want. Anyways. So what I have is the volleyball tournament, October 27th. We want as many people out there as possible. Thanks to Heather, we've made this really easy for you guys to sign up. All you have to do is go to our website, and even if you don't have a team of 6, have a team of 3, have a team just where you just want to play and you don't know anyone else who plays volleyball, it's okay. Go ahead and sign up. Put your name down, and we'll go ahead and put you on our own. We'll go ahead and combine teams. If one person needs an extra person, you'll go ahead and go on it. It's a $10 donation. We're gonna have night cast out there. It's gonna be a real fun time. It's just to get away from schoolwork. And then you'll be seeing flyers go everywhere because my directors are class touring UCF campus with those flyers. And also tonight we're gonna have our Buffalo Wild Wings partial proceeds night. Please come out. We're only gonna have a couple of these, so you guys can come out, eat, hang out with each other, get to know more people better. And buy food so we get more money. So, oh, sweatshirts.
It's also 60-cent wings.
That's too.
Just throw that out there.
On university. Right after the meeting on the university.
For the volleyball tournament, it has to be $10, but if there's people outside of the club and they want to play, but they don't want to pay like 10.
I mean, it's a strongly suggested donation. I mean, it is a fundraiser.
I think it's limited to UCF students also.
Yes.
Right, but if they're not part of AMSA, it's right.
I mean, it's just, like I said, it's a strongly suggested donation for $10. So I mean, it's a donation. So I mean, it's just a $100. I guess it's a donation. All right. So last year we had these, our AMSA sweatshirts, and we're gonna start selling them again because it's getting cold. These are awesome. They're super soft, really good to study in. They're gonna be $25. We're gonna start selling them at the next meeting. I wear mine all the time, even when it's hot, because it's just that comfortable. So, just saying. So as well, t-shirts at the next meeting, 2 weeks from now, we'll go ahead and have these $25 cash, check, or credit card.
All right, so as you know, we have caught tutoring every Thursday at 4 p.m. Next week is actually going to be canceled because of the football game, campus closed, and we don't want to deal with all that. Also, just real quick, who went to the Florida Hospital orientation last week, 2 weeks ago? So make sure you get in your applications and stuff because he's holding spots for AMSA members to get really good exposure. It's like clinical exposure and community service at the same time, so it's really good for those. Also, we're going to have Heather come talk about Give Kids the World real quick. We tried to do this last year, and because people weren't turning up, they said everyone has to go to orientation. So, these are the times, but our volunteer directors have put together times to go to orientation.
Hello, everybody. Hi. Okay. All right, so basically, does anyone know what Give Kids the World is? Anyone? Okay, for those that don't know, it's a nonprofit organization, and their mission is to basically make children's dreams come true that have life-threatening illnesses. It's a lot of fun. It's basically, it's in Kissimmee, and it's around the Disney attractions, and they give them a whole entire week of free vacation is basically what it is. So they need volunteers to come and help these children be super happy, and that's what you guys are for. So you have to go through orientation in order to be able to volunteer there, and the orientation times are every Saturday from 1 to 3, and then every Tuesday from 1 to 3, or 6 to 6:30 to 8:30. Every Tuesday from 6:30 to 8:30, that if that's the only time you can make, you would have to carpool with someone else because all directors have to be at a meeting that won't make it. So a director cannot drive you to that time. But Saturdays 1 to 3, we have one for October 6th. If you are interested, we do have a carpool going. And then also on Tuesday, October 9th is another one. So if you are interested in the orientation, please sign up. They need you, and it's a lot of fun, so sign up. And that's it.
Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing? Yeah, you don't sound good. I know a lot of people are sick. I just got over something. Be careful out there. Campus is rife with it right now. My announcements. I'm going to do a shout out to the volleyball tournament. I look forward to it every single semester. It's like, what? I look forward to it every semester. It's like the most fun thing that we do. Get to go out there, not be a pre-med for a day, just mess around, throw water balloons and stuff. I don't even know how that happened last time. But it's a lot of fun, and it gets really. I get really competitive, but you don't have to be competitive. I am doing a doctor road again on Friday. We've had really good turnouts with that several weeks ago, and then with the Arboretum the other week. It's a lot of fun. And running group, yay, a lot of people have shown a lot of interest with that. So let me see the people who are out at the Arboretum. Raise your hands. Okay, there were more than that, but for all of you who are in here, there really were a lot of us out there. It was fun. We got a good group. So I hope to see you guys at the running group. We're going to do it out in the Arboretum Fridays at 4. Every Friday at 4 o'clock, I'll be out there running my ass off. Come out and join me, please. It's a lot of fun. And you all said that you wanted a running group, and now I'm doing it, so you better show up. I want to be running out there by myself. Shay.
What is the easiest directions to the Arboretum?
Okay, for all of you who don't know where the Arboretum is, this is another reason to come to this is because none of you know where the Arboretum is, and it's one of the coolest things on campus, and you have no idea it's there, which is really, really sad. Okay, so basically on Gemini, garages C and D. You guys all know where garages C and D are, right? Okay, the arena, out by the arena, on that end of campus, along Gemini, those big garages. And garage C is like behind engineering, HPA2 on that side. Anyway, the entrance to garage C on Gemini, directly across the street, just run across the street, there's a pavilion, like kind of hidden in the trees. And there's all sorts of trails out there. They're all marked. They're for us. UCF built that all for us. It's beautiful out there. There's a great pavilion that it's got solar-powered fans and lights and outlets out there. You can go out there and study. People don't know it's out there. It's a really quiet place to go study. You can bike out there. And it is literally right there. It's so easy to walk to. So for those of you who live on campus, you don't even realize it's there, and you really should. He's going to try and pull it up. Okay, so arena, here's classroom building 1, psychology, all this kind of stuff. The big garages along Gemini that you all try really hard to park in but can never get a spot. And then here's the pavilion. So garage C, entrance onto Gemini, just run across the street and there's a pavilion there. You drive by it probably every single day, don't even know it's there. And then there's all sorts of trails out here, they're really nice. And please come and join me. It's a really cool place that nobody knows is there. It's a little secret that I try to expose to you guys. So please come join me. It's a lot of fun. And we will meet at the pavilion at 4 o'clock Friday. I'll be there. Bring shoes and new shorts and all that kind of stuff. Water. Bring water.
If you guys want to check out this map later, I'll just keep it open. So
Anyway,
after the meeting.
Come and join me, guys. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Josh. Before we get started with our speaker, I just wanted to make one quick correction. Everyone has our event sheet. If you don't, just grab one on your way out. Right here on the second page, this is our first page. You just turn that over right here on the second page. Our dates, it went from Thursday, October 4th to Friday, September 21st. Just cancel out these dates and just go in order. It's Friday, the 5th, Saturday, the 6th, and Sunday, the 7th. Does that make sense? Everybody get that? Anybody have any questions about that? just fix the dates. Our dates kind of got backwards, so everyone see that? All right, now that everyone got it, we're just gonna go ahead and guys got the date. Okay.
Thursday is the fourth Friday, so everybody understands how to count.
And we'll just send out an email that's updated, and it'll have the correct information. And well, without further ado, we'd like to introduce our speaker for the day, speaking on the myths and realities of dementia, and what every physician or pre-med student should know. And we'd like to welcome Dr. Tucker.
I wish I had Trevor's booming voice. I have talked to groups larger than this. I retired from full-time teaching 6 years ago, and I still do guest lectures occasionally, but so my voice isn't quite in shape for screaming. But I am just so impressed by the size of this group and how well organized you are and all these events that you have. And particularly since I came here in 1972, when there were about 5,000 students. And the campus was basically everything around the library, the pond, the reflecting pond. So this place has grown a bit since then. And this group has really grown. And I'm sure that, my guess is that the opening of the med school might have generated even more interest in pre-med issues. As I was coming over here, I had prepared a presentation and then kind of wondered whether I really should give it. The problem is that a professor is trained to speak for no less than 50 minutes. Kind of, you may have noticed in your classes. But I know I don't have that long. But also I wanted to leave enough time for questions. How many of you have had a course in aging, either in psychology of aging, sociology of aging, healthcare needs of the elderly, social services? How many of you? Good. So most of you have not. Most of you have not. How many of you have grandparents? How many of you have great-grandparents? I would urge you, if you want to get a good kind of overview of the area of aging, there is a class offered by the College of Health and Public Affairs, GEY 3000, and it's a web-based course, so you don't have to worry about getting into going to class and all those good things. Anyway, it's a good overview of aging. I need a kind of a disclaimer, and this is a very presumptuous title. First of all, as my oldest son likes to remind me, I am not a real doctor. I am a Ph.D. Psychologist. And to say what every physician should know, who am I to tell a physician what they should know? Rowdy group. But I've been working in the field of aging, and I've been working a great deal in the area of dementia and dementia services. Good, thank you. And I've become concerned with the number of people who I feel are not being appropriately diagnosed. And a lot of it, I think, has to do with the fact that dementia is an age-related disease. That is, as you increase in age, the probability of developing dementia increases. Now, don't confuse that. Being age-related means that as you age, you have this higher probability. it is not the inevitable consequence of aging. Our society hasn't really come to grips with what aging is. And in fact, I would go on to say that I think that we live in a very ageist society. How many of you have heard the term ageism? It's interesting, when I talk a lot to older adults, and when I ask how many of you have heard of ageism, very few hands go up. I ask them, well, how many of you have heard of racism? Hands. How many of you have heard of sexism? A bunch of hands go up. I said, well, ageism has the same dynamics of those other isms, except that it's aimed at you, because I'm pointing to older adults like myself. And I think that we make assumptions about people who are old, and particularly things that relate to age-related illnesses. And one of the areas that I've really developed an interest in is dementia. So I think what I will do is kind of very quickly go through some of the issues and then leave time for you to ask questions. First of all, how many of you know what dementia is? How many of you have had a member of the family, grandparent, great-grandparent, who suffered from dementia? So we'll spend a little time on that. And we need to contrast it briefly with normal aging, because there are changes that take place as you age. Those changes are not dementia. Vibrant group. So anyway, let's, Josh, let's get started here. Some of the issues, well then, let's go past this. Let's go past this. I'm going to try to talk about brain basics, abnormal versus abnormal, cognitive decline, dementia, and this is critical, understanding dementia not as a disease per se, but rather as a symptom. And then we're going to talk about differential diagnosis, which is very important to medicine, right? When you go to the doctor, you want to know, you want to be treated symptomatically, but you want to know what's causing it. And so the doctor will take some tests and all to try to get at that. The important thing here is to know that Alzheimer's disease, and how many of you have heard of Alzheimer's disease? It's so many more than have raised their hands about how many of you have heard of dementia. All Alzheimer's disease is dementia. It is indeed the leading cause of dementia. But, very important, not all dementia is Alzheimer's disease. And we'll get into that. And this whole diagnostic process, and particularly the role of the physician in that. And if we have time, we'll talk a little bit about the risk factors for dementia, as well as really the good news. The research over the last 10 to 15 years has indicated that there may be things that you can do to protect yourself against onset of dementia. And that's good news, because many of them, believe it or not, are lifestyle factors. In the same way that we talk about things that you can do to improve your physical health, we find that there may be things that you can do to improve your mental health, your brain wellness. Okay? Now, just to start off from his neck down, a man is worth a couple of dollars a day. From his neck up, he's worth anything his brain can produce. Just one of the sayings to show that the most important organ in the body is the brain. And for that to become diseased, and the consequences of that, I would list as one of the most terrible diseases that a person can get. I don't want to get into which is the worst disease. But I'll tell you, if you go out and talk to groups of older adults, their number one fear is developing dementia. And if you ask them, well, you know, if you got disabled, became actually maybe even a little dysfunctional, you couldn't get around as much, you had some chronic diseases, but you were mentally intact, how would you feel about that? As long as I'm mentally intact, I can handle it. But as soon as I'm not mentally intact, then there are issues. This is stuff you already know about the brain. How many of you have had your basic anatomy and physiology courses? You could probably tell me much more about this. But the reason I put all of this up is that the brain is, oh my gosh. Somebody broke down and gave us a microphone. Good. Now I can outshout you. The brain is relatively small when you consider what it does. It actually weighs only 2 to 4 pounds. Composed of 85% water and fat. It uses 20 to 30% of your daily calories. It's a pig. Okay? 25% of the blood flow from each heart rate goes to the brain, and it's used by the brain. And your brain runs on glucose, oxygen, and stimulation. The different areas of the brain are important. The part of the brain that is most involved initially with dementia, and certainly with Alzheimer's disease, is not the outer core. It's not the cerebrum. It is the inner brain, and particularly the hypothalamus, which is a controlling part, key processing and relay station of the brain. Much of what happens with particularly Alzheimer's disease is that the brain cells are not able to communicate with one another. Okay. There are estimated to be 100 billion nerve cells, neurons in the brain, each connected to thousands of other nerve cells. 150 trillion synapses, connections. It is supposed to be, and I'm sure I've got some folks in computer science who would question this, it is supposed to be much more powerful than the most powerful computer that we have. And like with physical activity, the health of the brain is very much dependent on what we call the use it or lose it principle. Now, and that process by which the brain makes connections, forming of dendrites, is called arborization. And it's an interesting term because we're probably familiar with the term arbor as a tree, Arbor Day. Okay. Think of a tree with a lot of branches, a good healthy tree. As a person develops, particularly Alzheimer's disease, those branches begin to wither. And it's these dendrites that are particularly critical. But within the nerve cell itself, Alzheimer's disease is characterized by the buildup of beta amyloid protein. And you also have neurofibrillary tangles. Those two aspects of dendritic plaques and neurofibrillary tangles define Alzheimer's disease. In fact, technically you cannot diagnose Alzheimer's disease except by autopsy. You have to well, I guess you can do a brain biopsy. Last time I checked, I thought that was somewhat invasive. But seeing the plaques and tangles is what defines Alzheimer's disease. Okay, let's talk a little bit about, don't go too far. Okay. Age-consistent memory decline is what we call normal aging. It includes more difficulty remembering names, and particularly you have this person coming toward you, and you know this person. You just cannot remember their name. And they're getting closer and closer, and you're getting more and more anxious. That's normal aging. And so we call it age-consistent memory decline. You don't worry about people who have age-consistent memory decline. Another term, which is an intermittent or mild memory change, not greater than expected for age, and which does not impact activities of daily living. Like I said, it could be embarrassing, but the other term, I love this term, this is actually an old term, benign senescent forgetfulness. Benign is good, right? Senescent is a term, how many of you have seen that term, senescent? It's a developmental term. It refers to aging, refers to that period of life characterized by physical decline. And then forgetfulness. If somebody told me I suffered from forgetfulness, I could probably say, yeah, you're right. If they said I suffered from dementia, that would be good. Okay? So benign senescent forgetfulness. I've always wanted a bumper sticker like that. When I speak to older adults, I said, remember that, so the next time you're at a cocktail party and you slip on a word that you're trying to retrieve, you can just say, oh, it's that darn benign senescent forgetfulness. And then they won't talk to you for the rest of the night. And then there's CRS. Now, this I didn't discover until I was in Atlantic City. How many of you have ever gone to Atlantic City? How many of you have ever gone to Hard Rock Cafe? What do you see at casinos? Lots of old people. And that's where I first saw this. It was in the windows. It was on hats. It was on t-shirts. And so that's normal memory. Now, what kind of changes are normal? The biggest thing is retrieval. It's retrieving material that you want when you want it. And that's why it's inconvenient and sometimes embarrassing. And you need to be more intentional in your processing. So if you really want to remember something, like if you go to the mall and you get out of your car, you probably, and you go in, how many of you have trouble finding your car after you get out of the mall? Particularly if it's one of these multiple entrances and exits. If you're intentional about it, that is when you get out, okay, now where am I? What are the sidelines? Then you're doing more intentional processing. And older adults need to do more of that. And you also need to use more cues. Particularly to remember to do something in the future. Thank God for sticky notes. 3M company has made great contributions toward aging. And this is just a little cartoon, how to improve your memory seminar. And here's this guy emerging from it with all sorts of sticky notes on it. And the role of cueing, I do an exercise with older adults where I give them a memory test. And you better believe they are not happy about that. But I give them, I tell them they're going to have a memory test, I'm going to call out a list of words, and I want them to remember those words. I also give them a context for the word. like a State of the Union, Alaska. What I want them to remember is Alaska, okay? So I go through these, and at the end, I say, okay, now write down as many as you can remember. That's called free recall. You're having to do all the work to remember this. And free recall shows the greatest age differences between young adults and older adults. And it also leads one, because of that, and this is research that we've known for a long time, these differences lead someone to say, oh, old adults aren't very smart, or they've lost their smarts, okay? Now that's free recall. Cueing, however, improves the performance of everyone, but older adults gain more, narrowing the difference. What I do in this memory test, when they finish, I said, okay, now you got another task. Turn that piece of paper over. I said, I'm not going to give you the words again. What I'm going to give you is the context. And as soon as I say the context, I want you to write down the word that you think was associated with that. And sure enough, ask how many got more right the first time than the second time, almost no one raises their hand. Actually, that's a good thing. And so most people have recalled items, given these cues, which they really didn't have to learn. Okay? Now, for you guys, you say, oh yeah, that's just showing the difference between cued and free recall. If you're an older adult, it's almost an act of empowerment to know that there's more in there. It's still in there. And that maybe you just need some help rearranging the environment to get it out. Then there's this thing called recognition memory. Like if I were to say, for the people that have gone through these words, and it was like the State of the Union, Alaska, something you might see on a river bridge, member of the family grandmother, and then they do the free recall and they do the cue. If recognition memory would be, okay, tell me whether or not this was one of the words, and so you would give them California. Hello. Oh, good. California was no. Okay. Bridge. Grandfather. Let's be a little slower. Anyway, that's recognition memory. There are no differences in recognition between younger adults and older adults. Now, if you have a person with dementia, their recognition memory is very poor because they're not able to do any processing. It is in there. The recognition memory is telling you it's still in there. The other thing, how many of you have had that? You don't have as many years of life experience as I do, so it probably doesn't astound you as much. But how many of you have had a situation where you see something, you hear something, you feel something, and it triggers a memory of something you have not thought about in years? How many of you have had that experience? How do you explain that? What does it tell us? It's still in there. It's still in there. And that's important. That's important. Okay. Just a little light. I mean, just so they see it. Speeding because I have to get there before I forget where I'm going. Okay. Other changes, again, these are all normal kinds of things. This, I don't know why it's in there. You probably can't even read it. It says, whatever happened to our sexual relations? So I don't know. I don't even think we got a Christmas card from them this year. Okay. Abnormal changes. Now this is where, and this is a new area of study and a new area of diagnosis, mild cognitive impairment. Here you have changes in cognitive function that do not seriously impair everyday functioning, but neither are they normal for that age group. That is, they're occurring with greater frequency, and other people begin to notice. It's called mild cognitive impairment. One of the problems is we find that people with mild cognitive impairment have a greater probability of developing a progressive dementia, particularly if it's an amnestic mild cognitive impairment. The good thing is that there are opportunities for early diagnosis and greater involvement of the person in the planning, because this is very early. Greater opportunity for intervention. Now, this is an area that has really changed. If you're able to diagnose people earlier and to find out that these people now are at risk for developing dementia, why can't you intervene? We're not there yet. We're just now starting to do those studies to see what difference that makes. We have enough correlational information that a lot of things are protective, but what happens if we use it as intervention with people who are at risk? And to me, that's a bright sign for the future. And both drug treatment I'm talking about, and that's mainly what you hear about. How many of you heard that there are drugs for Alzheimer's disease? There are. They don't cure it. Nothing cures Alzheimer's disease. The best, it moderates it for some period of time. Lifestyle changes, however, have been shown to be protective. And that's the kind of intervention I'm interested in as a psychologist. Okay. Just very quickly, be aware that there's something called preclinical Alzheimer's disease. It probably will scare the hell out of you, because it indicates that there are ways, particularly now with advances in brain imaging, and particularly with PET scans and SPECT scans, you can actually see the brain in real time. That people with certain kinds of differences, later on, there's a difference in who develops dementia and who does not. Other things like losing the sense of smell. These are preclinical indicators. By preclinical, I mean that the person is not showing symptoms of dementia. This is happening earlier. And first of all, it's telling us that dementia, and particularly Alzheimer's disease, is going on for quite a while before it manifests itself. Ronald Reagan had Alzheimer's disease as president. It wasn't after he left the presidency. He had Alzheimer's disease while he was president. Oh, another snowy and bad. I wrap my own Christmas presents and never watch reruns. I hide my own Easter eggs, and I get to meet new people every day. Upbeat. Now, let's talk about dementia, and particularly to talk about it as a cluster of symptoms. First and foremost, dementia involves memory impairment, and it's particularly impairment of what's called short-term memory, new learning. But there have to be disruptions in other cognitive processes, organization, judgment, decision-making, higher level thing, wayfinding. Long-term memory tends to be maintained longer, and even with a person with dementia, they will have very good, accurate long-term memory in the early stages. I can remember my dad talking late in his life, in his 80s, for the first time, about his childhood. And it turns out he had a lot of brothers and sisters, so I was able to get some validation that what he was saying was true. It wasn't confabulation. So he said, oh, God, he had a great memory. Well, yes, but 10 minutes after he told you that story, he's telling it to you again. And that indicates a problem with short-term memory, of not being able to monitor your own behavior over time. These symptoms cause significant impairment in social occupational function and represent a decline from previous function. I know one of the things when I talk to older adults, and I give them an example, I said, for instance, you're finding that you have trouble balancing your checkbook, and suddenly I'm getting these wide eyes. Oh my God, I've never been able to balance my checkbook. I said, well, that's fine. It's when you have been able to balance your checkbook and now you can't that you need to worry about it. Okay? The reason why you want to focus on the symptoms is that there are over 50 different causes of dementia. The ones that are progressively and currently incurable, which represents 90 to 95% of the dementias, Alzheimer's is the leading cause. And that's the dendritic plaques and neurofibrillary tangles that I mentioned. How many of you have heard of vascular dementia? How many of you have heard of hardening of the arteries? Which is what we used to think of as senility. Vascular dementia refers to disruptions of blood flow, mini strokes. Then there's diffuse Lewy body disease, which was discovered about 20 years ago, which is another disease within the brain. And then there are mixed dementias, a combination of things. Okay? Now, what I want to focus on, there are treatable causes of dementia. And this is why I'm concerned about the diagnostic process. Now, it's only 5 to 10% of the cases. Why should I be concerned about that? Why should a physician be concerned about misdiagnosis? When in fact, treatable cases only represent 5 to 10%. How many cases of Alzheimer's disease do we have in the United States? Anybody got any idea? How about 5 million? In the state of Florida, 400,000 to 500,000. Take 5 to 10% of those numbers. Okay? And we're talking about something significant. It could be something as simple as a vitamin B12 deficiency, which is very treatable, right? It could be electrolyte, severe electrolyte depletion. Treatable head trauma. There could be a tumor that could be removed. Anything that is causing the brain to misfunction. And we see this in the symptoms, these dementia symptoms. One of the things that's really getting some traction, how many of you have heard of normal pressure hydrocephalus? You're going to be hearing more about it. It's the buildup of pressure on the brain. And the symptoms are dementia. And I was telling a group up in Longwood about this. After I finished presenting, this guy came up to me and said, I am 86 years old. 6 months ago, everybody, including me, thought I had Alzheimer's disease. Fortunately, I got referred to a neurologist who did a more definitive diagnosis and found out it was normal pressure hydrocephalus, which can be treated by shunting, usually shunting fluid back into the stomach. And then he looks at me, and I get shivers every time I think about it. He says, I'm back. What would have happened? He was 86 years old. What would have happened had he not been referred to a neurologist? At that age, you would just sort of, oh, yeah, well, it must be Alzheimer's disease. Too bad. Lyme disease, I won't talk as much about it. There are drug effects. We had a doctoral level pharmacist here in the area who said anytime people presented with dementia, the first thing she looked at was the drugs they were taking. Older adults actually constitute, we say older, I'm saying 65 plus, they constitute 12.5% of the population, 18% of Florida. But they take 30 to 35% of the prescription drugs. and also greater use of over-the-counter natural drugs. These things can have interactions which will cause dementia. That's very treatable. But you have to know where to look. Alcohol by itself and mixing with drugs can cause dementia. Now, I'm not talking about chronic alcoholism here, which leads to what's called Korsakoff syndrome. Basically the pickling of the liver, and consequently the brain. I'm talking about alcohol-induced dementia. And this can happen easily in an older adult who has been a, quote, social drinker, having 3, maybe 4 drinks, never interfered with their work. They continue that. And in fact, when they retire, happy hour takes on a new meaning. You have to wait till 5 o'clock or whenever. But let's say they just continue this 3 to 4 drinks. What's happening is that the liver filtration rates, kidney filtration rates decline with age. And the effects of that alcohol now are multiplied. That's something that can be cured through education. Okay. And then finally, depression. It occurs enough that we call it pseudo-dementia. And people with depression may manifest this with dementia symptoms. And it really takes a special kind of diagnostic effort, primarily by a neuropsychologist. So we need differential diagnosis. What's causing those symptoms? And what we really need is a multidisciplinary assessment. Complete blood workup, neurological exam, brain scans, and of course, really progressing a lot. Certainly, at least an MRI, preferably a functional MRI. Neuropsychological assessment, and a good case history. A case history from a reliable informant, not necessarily the person. Because the person with dementia may not be aware of their deficits. It's part of the disease. Fortunately, we have in the state of Florida what are called memory disorder clinics. You have one that's associated with Orlando Health downtown. One of the best neurologists around is working there, as well as a neuropsychologist. There are 16 of them around the state. And you get a confirmation, now, as I said before, a confirmation of a diagnosis, particularly for Alzheimer's disease, is done at autopsy. Their rate of accuracy is about 92%. However, oh, and incidentally, the diagnosis is never Alzheimer's disease. It's possible or probable Alzheimer's disease, depending on how many symptoms there are and what you can rule out. But what's the reality of diagnosis? Who diagnoses most people with Alzheimer's disease? Is it the neurologist, and particularly a behavioral neurologist who specializes in memory disorders? No. It is the family physician. Now, if you had heart symptoms and you went to the doctor, he would do some screening there, but you would fully expect that he would refer you to a cardiologist, right? Right? You're going in with dementia symptoms. Why are you not being referred to a neurologist? And particularly a neurologist specializing in memory disorders. And that's what I'm really concerned about, because there are all of these possible curable factors. I'm not going to go through the risk factors, except well, yeah, let's do it very quickly. Genetics, how many of you think that Alzheimer's disease is a genetic disease? Early onset Alzheimer's disease, prior to age of 60, is heavily loaded in genetics. There are some genetic bases with late onset, but It's about half and half genetics, environmental factors. Now look at these. These are more recent findings. High cholesterol, diabetes. How many of you have heard of metabolic syndrome? It's a cluster of these 5 things. Inflammation. Okay, stop there. Yes. No, go ahead. What do all of these things have in common? Well, it's interesting you mentioned lifestyle. Yeah, that's true. But what, in terms of the effects on the body, what's going on? Inflammation. Okay. They're all related to cardiovascular issues. And isn't that interesting? Because we don't think of Alzheimer's as having cardiovascular components. It's a disease within the brain. We talk about vascular dementia. But lo and behold, these are risk factors, all of which are controlled through lifestyle. So, let me stop at that point to just give you time for questions. Yes?
You said earlier in the presentation, people with dementia, they have low recognition memory and stuff like that.
Yes.
Does that affect their free recall?
Well, their free recall is very low. And this is of new information. This is of new information. As I said, their recall, particularly in the early stages of the disease, may be very good for long-term memory. Yeah?
On the topic of, we heard the term neuroplasticity.
Yes.
Where, is this a science that's actually blossoming?
If you didn't hear that question, had I heard of neuroplasticity, I think it's one of the most encouraging terms that's come along, and that is that the brain, the organization of the brain can change with intervention. We know it with rat research, that if you expose rats, old rats, to a stimulating environment, you get a growth in dendrites. We've known that for years with kids. In fact, that research back in the 50s gave rise to the Head Start program. But now we know. And how many of you are involved at all with stroke rehabilitation? That is an incredibly exciting field in terms of what can be done. It has to be intensive, but you can make changes. We find out that the brain will take over function of areas that have not been functioning. I assume that's what you meant by neuroplasticity.
That certain activities they can do day to day help this to neuroplasticity and kind of dementia. They say learning an instrument.
Yeah, learning a musical instrument, learning a foreign language. There are a number of things that you do, things to keep the mind active, and not just crossword puzzles are very good, because when you first look at a crossword puzzle, I don't know, how many of you do crossword puzzles? You don't have time to do it. You don't have time to do it. Or Sudoku. But with a crossword puzzle, when you first look at it, you say, what? And then you start putting in a few things, and those serve as cues to get other stuff going. But the best kind of training is to have the brain operate differently. For instance, brushing your hair, brushing your teeth with your non-dominant hand.
I heard dancing is one of the most.
Dancing is also very good. How many of you can recite the alphabet? Real fast. I mean, you can do it real fast, right? Now do it backwards. And you can do it, actually, before too long. And before you get too cocky, start at the middle and alternate going out. Those are working the brain in different ways. Other questions? Yeah.
As future physicians, what should we focus on in terms of not allowing these kind of things to happen in this diagnosis?
Well, first of all, be well trained. Fortunately, I'm happy to say that the med schools, and you would think particularly in Florida, which has the highest concentration of older adults, not the highest number, as California, but the highest concentration. They do not require geriatrics in the Florida med states, except for Florida State University, which specializes in geriatrics. I've had this discussion with Dean German from time to time, but they are trying to integrate geriatrics into the curriculum. But a lot of it is just, I think this issue of ageism is going to change. As the baby boomers age, and they are now at 10,000 a day, they are going to redefine aging. And they're not going to put up with it. There's a question over here.
You mentioned about like the involved, like I guess the nerves and how it involves in Alzheimer's. Is there anything about neurodegeneration that contributes to preventative neurodegeneration?
Well, there's been some research, in fact, research here on campus, it's a little different than ours, with stem cell research. Are any of you involved with that research? With Dr. Sagaya over in the College of Biomedical Sciences? They're actually doing some very basic kind of research there, which shows very interesting promise. This Dr. Ming Su, who just got this humongous grant, largely to study cancer, is also looking at ways to intervene at the cellular level. And I think when we discover that, see, we don't know what causes aging. If we find the aging gene, frankly, I don't want to be around. We're having enough trouble now just dealing with the increased longevity of our population and the quality of life. If we get it so that, oh, guess what? You really can live to 120 or more. Better be on another planet. Other questions? Yeah.
Let's kind of follow up on the stem cell thing, I guess, but like, what's the current direction for like treating the uncurable Alzheimer's?
Well, first of all, there are only four or five drugs on the market that are used to treat, and 4 of them are used to deal with acetylcholine, which is the main transmitter affecting memory. And as I said, there's some early effect of that to stabilize. Very few people improve with that. But the other drugs being developed now that are in the pipeline are dealing with the formation of beta amyloid protein and the tau. And that's exciting. In fact, you know, the hope is that we actually will develop a vaccine for Alzheimer's disease. But until we do, we know there are a number of things that people can do. And the best age at which to start that regimen is now. I started it when I started running, as a matter of fact, at age 40. And found out that I actually could do something athletically, including a couple of Boston marathons. But I was late getting into it. But it's never too late to start. But this is the time to really be building what we call cognitive reserve. You're all familiar with the notion of physical reserve, and one of the reasons you exercise is to build physical reserve, right? Well, we know you can also build cognitive reserve. One of the protective factors for the development of dementia is higher education. The more educated the person, the lower the risk they are. And when people say, oh, wait a minute, I know this person that developed it. And usually it's a person who developed early onset, which is heavily genetic. Yeah, one more. Yes? All Alzheimer's disease is dementia in terms of all the symptoms.
Does that mean like dementia causes Alzheimer's or
Alzheimer's is the leading category of dementia. It's the leading cause of dementia. So all Alzheimer's disease is dementia, but not all dementia is Alzheimer's disease. And the ones that I'm particularly concerned about are those which are potentially treatable and reversible, and that takes a good diagnostic process. And that's hopefully what every physician should know. Thanks.
All right, everybody, let's thank Dr. Tucker.
Thank Dr. Tucker one more time. All right, and we've done.
Before our next guest, we have a couple officers that have birthdays this week. So Brad and Trevor, you guys already have come. Stand up. Back up. And
Be louder than them.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Brad. Happy birthday to you.
so we'll be passing out cake for the rest of the meeting. So. Sit tight.
Thank you guys, thank you. And we have just three more quick announcements, and 3 more quick speakers that are going to be running up, so stay seated. Cake is going to be coming around. Thank you guys are the best. I didn't even know that they were bringing cake and saying happy birthday, so thank you again, Heather. Next guest speaker that we'd like to call up is our own pre-med AMSA Regional Director. She oversees the entire Region 3. Her name is Erin Gannon. Thank you.
Got it. Hi, everyone. How many of you are freshmen this year? Please raise your hand. Wow, geez. Okay, you guys don't know me. My name is Erin Gannon. I was Chief of Staff last year, and I am very proud to come back as National AMSA's Pre-Medical Regional Director for Region 3, which is the lower 7 states of the southeastern region of the U.S. But more specifically, you guys, my home chapter, get the privilege of seeing me personally. Yeah. Anyway, so I just wanted to introduce myself. If you guys have any questions, promise I don't bite. And I can't because I just got braces on Friday, so you're doubly safe. Anyway, so as I said, my name is Erin. I am a junior this year. My major is interdisciplinary studies with concentrations in biomed and clinical health sciences with a minor in medical anthropology. So if you have any questions about the major, I love it. Great change. I'm graduating early. So I am also starting my Kaplan MCAT course. I actually started it on Saturday. So if you guys have any questions about the MCAT, another wonderful facet of my life. Anyway, so back to my position. What the Pre-Medical Regional Director basically is your liaison toward National AMSA. If you have any questions about where your undergraduate dues go, if you have any questions about what National can do for you as far as scholarships, as far as grants for research, as far as projects you want to bring back to your local chapter, as far as connections. One of the big things I'm focusing on with my platform this year is an online platform called Inspiration Exchange. Can you guys raise your hands if you've heard of Inspiration Exchange? Good, you guys are on the forefront of technological innovation. Anyway, but basically what Inspiration Exchange is, in 21st century terms, is it's Twitter, email, Facebook, and AIM all rolled into one. It's basically as soon as you pay your national dues, so your dues to AMSA covers your national dues for, a lot of people don't know this, but up to 5 years. So say if you want to graduate in 2014, you sign up, you say you want to graduate in 2014, something happens, you don't graduate till later, call up National, say, something happened, they will extend your registration with National for up to 5 years. Great opportunity. Basically, getting back to Inspiration Exchange, as soon as you pay your dues, you're automatically created an account in Inspiration Exchange. And by going in and filling out those wonderful profile things that we love to fill out with our hobbies, interests, professional goals, what research we're doing, they automatically group you into communities with representatives of National AMSA members throughout the nation and our international members in England. So it's basically a platform where you can meet fellow med students, you can meet DOs, you can meet MDs, you can meet residents from all across the nation and most of the world. So, does anyone have any other questions? I can talk about what my personal goals for my platform are this year, or MCAT stuff, or... Okay then. Just to elaborate, my personal platform this year, when I was at the Building on Foundations leadership workshop this past summer, talking to a lot of the representatives from Region 3 specifically, both undergrad residents and medical students alike, a lot of them conveyed concern that they didn't have any education in cultural competency, which from my minor in medical anthropology, I've come to really, really appreciate a value for and be really interested in. So through one of the professors in the anthropology department, and with my contacts through Region 3, I'm creating an introduction instructional lesson plan for cultural competency that can be applied to both undergraduate, pre-meds, and medical student members, just to get them a little bit more on board with what can happen when you are approached as a physician, someone from a different culture that can affect everything from medication administration to language barriers, to whether they actually think the disease or illness that they're presented with is a problem in their culture, which as American doctors, we are a plethora, we're the melting pot, so you need to know values and distinctions like that when you get out to practice. So, any last questions? I will be here after the meeting. And thank you all.
And again, that's Aaron, our regional director. Actually, I got the privilege of being on our last year's e-board with Aaron, so it was great to work with her for a year. One more speaker that we have coming up, just to talk to you guys a little bit more about Amendment 3. Again, part of being pre-med, being a pre-med major, is being aware of the health laws that are going on. We actually, my brother last year, when he got interviewed for med school, he actually got one of his interview questions was, how do you feel about the new healthcare law, what's going on with Congress in regards to health. So that's something you definitely want to keep up with, because it's something that med schools definitely take an interest in. And Atish Patel, he's actually a UCF graduate, is going to come and speak to you a little bit about Amendment 3.
There we go. Hey, so I know a lot of you guys probably want to head out really fast, so I'm not going to take too long at all. So my name is Atish Patel, and I graduated UCF in May, and I was fortunate enough to get into a few medical schools, and I'm actually been accepted to University of Florida College of Medicine. And so what happened? No, don't stop. So basically what happened was that like 2 months before school, I decided really last minute that I wanted to take a year off because I'm fairly younger compared to the other students who applied. And so I was like, hey, why not? And so the admission staff was nice enough to let me take a year off. And so I'll let you guys know really quickly what I'm doing this year off. And I'm really, really trying to get you guys support. So first of all, I'm going to come on this side so I can see you guys. All right, so I started working with a nonprofit and nonpartisan organization called Focus Orlando. And what we do is that we promote civic engagement in low to moderate income communities, and specifically communities of color. So we work on various issues. For example, East Orlando has a lot of foreclosures going on, so what we're doing in East Orlando is that we're setting up free legal clinics to help people stay in their homes. There's a lot of voter suppression going on in communities of color, and so we're working with communities like Paramore and Pine Hills to fight voter suppression. We're helping folks get their rights restored to vote. President Obama just passed the DREAM Act, which helps undocumented students finally go to school here, and so we're also setting up free legal clinics to help those students finally go to school here. But there's one very, very, very important thing. Who here has heard of Amendment 3? Anyone? Yes, thank God. But as many of you guys didn't raise your hands, of course a lot of people don't know about Amendment 3, and that's why I'm here to tell you guys about it, because it's really, really important. So basically, Amendment 3 is going to be on the ballot this November. And it's a new state revenue limitation that's planning to cut funding for every one of our public services. Exactly, he's booing it. He's got the right idea, boo, exactly. But it's really, really important though, because it's going to be cutting funding from our public education. I'm not only talking regular K through 12. It's going to be affecting all of you guys too. K through 12 plus university. It's going to be cutting funding from healthcare. It's going to be cutting funding from our policemen, our firefighters, our senior citizens. They're going after programs like assisted living for senior citizens. How do you cut a program like assisted living for senior citizens? He was just talking about Alzheimer's. And basically, they're going to go after our roads, our bridges. And the very, very important thing about this is that Colorado actually tried out a very similar amendment in 1992. It was called Tabor. And it was so devastating in the state of Colorado that a lot of schools literally had to start shutting down because the state couldn't even afford to pay for electricity. Their education ranking dropped from 35th to 49th in the nation. College tuition went up 46%. I repeat, 46%. And it's estimated that college tuition in the state of Florida will go up 45 to 50% if the amendment goes through. I see a lot of you guys. Yeah, exactly. I have financial aid when I came to UCF. I have bright futures. And I know for a fact that I would have not been able to graduate had it not been for help from the state of Florida. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are in a very similar position. So what we're doing is that we're really emphasizing the fact that tuition is going to be raised, and that's why I'm here to talk to you about it. And so what we're doing is that we need volunteers because we need to get the word out. A lot of you guys didn't raise your hands because you didn't know what Amendment 3 was, and there's a lot of other folks like you guys out in the state of Florida. Not many people, unfortunately, know what Amendment 3 is going to do. I hate to really quickly, like in Colorado, it got so bad that the state couldn't afford to, like, even pay for vaccinations for their like kids. So just elementary school kids were going to like school without vaccinations. Like they couldn't even pay for potholes and streetlights. The state was running out of money. And so in 2005, they had to have an emergency vote to suspend the amendment, and 20 other states rejected it. So everyone pretty much realized that it was a terrible amendment. And obviously, Florida is smart enough to pass this amendment because Florida's always doing great things. So what we need from you guys is that it's super important. We need volunteers to help get the word out about Amendment 3. And so what we're doing is that we have two main methods. We have canvassing, which is basically standing in any high traffic areas. You guys can do it right here at UCF outside the student union. Just stop someone really quickly. Hey, have you heard about Amendment 3? It's going to raise your tuition 50%. Really quickly, we need you to sign this pledge card, blah, blah, blah. It takes 15 seconds. Option number 2 is probably what a lot of you guys might do, is we do phone banking. Monday through Thursday and every Saturday, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. We have an office located downtown Orlando. From 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. we do phone bank shifts. And so we call folks across the state of Florida to let them know basically about Amendment 3. But the reason why you guys need to fight for this is because it's relevant to you guys. Like, I'm not coming here asking you that, hey, here's my organization, come help me. No, I need you guys to help yourself because tuition will go up, I guarantee you that. And it's just a terrible amendment. So if you guys are interested in volunteering, I'm either going to pass out a volunteer sheet, but time's running low, so I might just actually lay them out here, and you guys can come up and talk to me after. Also, I know that you guys are freshmen, and if you guys, or a lot of you guys are freshmen, sophomores, whatever, if you guys need any help with like med school application cycles, like MCAT questions, anything, I'm here. My information is on that sheet. And please come and volunteer. And one thing I'd like to emphasize, last thing, I know you guys want to leave. When I went to every single one of my med school interviews, pretty much every one of them asked me, what is one non-clinical or non-medical related activity that you guys did? And this is a really good opportunity for you guys to put on your resumes, because I guarantee you will be asked what's one non-medical related. Because I remember when I was in your position, all I wanted to do was, oh, I got to volunteer to put this on my resume, clinical this, research that, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of times, a lot of us forget about non-medical related things, and med schools really want to see diversity. They want to see candidates who aren't the traditional MD students who go to pre-med and do only pre-med things. They want to see people who have broadened their horizons. So it's very important. It's going to look very good on your resumes. I guarantee you that. I've been through it. I know what I'm talking about. So please, guys, come sign up with me to volunteer. It's really important. All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you again, Atif. Again, Atif's going to have volunteer sheets up front. So before you guys leave, just make sure you fill it out if you're really interested. Also, if we have one more announcement, but while that announcement is going on, can you please raise your hand if you don't have a raffle ticket? And our next, Doralis is our senator is going to be making a quick announcement.
Hello. Okay, so I'm gonna make this super quick. Okay, so who was here last 2 weeks when I spoke? Anyone? Everyone? Okay, good. So what's happening is next week, the 1st, the 2nd, and the 3rd of October, we're actually gonna have Senate elections. I don't know if you guys ever seen that. If you're a freshman, you're new. Pretty much what's happening is that there's gonna be people outside asking you to vote and asking you what college are you from. So who's here of biology, chemistry, psychology majors? Good, good. So you guys are College of Science. Who's biomedical, M&M, or all? Okay, everyone. All right, so you guys are going to be called College of Medicine. What's happening is the next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, you're going to be seeing tons of people outside being like, hey, want to vote? Hey, want to vote? They're going to have like food. They're going to have like all these other things. It's going to be really awesome. Anyways, to make the long story short, I'm going to be rerunning for my seat. This is going to be my 4th year if I do get on Senate to being re-elected to Senate. So I actually really want your support and you guys to vote for me. If you guys can, my name's Doralis Lopez. I'm actually running against someone. So it's gonna be very like pertinent if you guys could help and support me out. So again, that's College of Medicine. I'm seat number 2. So only the people in the College of Medicine can vote for me. So unfortunately, all those College of Sciences are not going to be able to vote for me. But there is other people too. So if you guys want to like find out more information, you'll be those 3 days. People are going to be passing out flyers, palm cards. You can get more information about that. Just a couple of things that I want to tell you about me, so you guys know who you're voting for. Like I said, it's going to be my 4th year on Senate if I do get elected to Senate. I do a lot of things like funding for bills and stuff. AMSA has had their 1st and their 2nd annual conference that they've gone through, and they've gotten funding through me. If you're part of IMO, all of their events that they go to when they go to Haiti, when they go to Dominican Republic, which they're going right now in December, all those things they get funding, and whenever they need money, they come towards me, and then I help them for workshops for AMSA. If anyone's APPA, you know, they have a lot of suture workshops, they get all that type of funding. So those are some of the things I do. Another thing that I'm actually starting, which is kind of related to this Amendment 3 thing, is a lot of people, does anyone know about the excessive credit hours thing that's happening? Okay, that, for all you guys don't know, it's really, it's affecting everyone that started college from 2009 on, so until present. So pretty much what's happening is that after you reach your 120 credit hours, depending on what year you started college, you're gonna have to pay 1.5 times each credit. So instead of paying $130, which is the credit hours here for UCF, you're gonna be paying $130 plus $65. So one of those things, that's actually a Florida statute that I'm actually working towards to make a resolution, which is pretty much going to go to Tallahassee and it's going to tell them, hey, UCF is against this, we want to change this, You know, it's already going to be bad enough if we have this Amendment 3 thing happen, where we're going to have an increase in tuition. On top of it, you're going to have an increase in credit hours. So that's not good, especially now that we're running out of financial aid a lot. You know, Bright Futures is cutting low on things. So that's just some of my credentials, just so you guys know. For next week, you guys can only vote Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, so I really appreciate all your support, and if you can tell everyone else, that'd be great. Thank you.
If you're a double major and like it's not an English lit, so will I follow it?
You actually get to vote, I believe, in both. So when, okay, how to vote? Go to your My UCF. It's on your My UCF. If you guys look at it, there's a testing time right now that you can vote to like test it out. But on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, you go to your My UCF, and there's this big, humongous like SGA emblem. I don't have it on me, and you can click on there, and then whatever college you're deemed for, it's gonna pop up automatically. So you don't have to look for your college. So hopefully you can have both colleges. I'm not sure how that actually works, but your college will pop up, and then you'll see the names there. All right? Any questions? Yeah, okay.
All right, thanks for she's really amazing. She's helped us both years that I've been talking about national convention, where we've been to DC and Houston. She's actually the reason that we were able to take 16. Actually, we took 12 people the first time. We took 16 the last time, and we're trying to increase it to 20 this year, which will be great. So be excited for that, and she's really good. So go for her. We're going to go ahead and just get our raffles done. And also, before we do our raffles, just wanted to remind everyone that on the newsletter sheet, there's suggestions about what we can do to, of course, make our chapter better, what we can do to make the meetings better. So if you guys can please fill those out, it just takes 2 seconds. If there's no suggestions, just write not applicable. And just please turn it in. We really appreciate your feedback. Again, we do this all for you guys, so really want to see what you guys want to see in AMSA. We're going to go ahead and do our raffles. We have some cool raffle prizes.